Welcome to Chicago Theater Review. I'm Frank and Gail, and we have a great show lined up for today. We got back the dueling critics. So we have Jonathan Abarbanel and Callie Kleiman. So welcome back. Good to see you guys.
Good. Yes. Indeed.
Why don't you tell us where we can get you on the radio now?
Well, Kelly and I, as the dueling critics, are on the 848 program on Chicago Public Radio. That's WBEZ 91.5 FM. And we air our views. My opinions, of course, are erudite and accurate, and Kelly says what she wants to. But we are on every Friday morning live, sometime between 9 and 10 a.m. We don't know exactly what time till we get there.
And if you miss us, you can always get us on WBEZ.org. So anyone who wants to keep track of us can find us.
See? Perfect. And we're going to have that up at the end of this.
And Jonathan, you also are a regular contributor to Footlights.
To Footlights, the monthly program magazine that's used by many local theaters and off-loop theaters and dance companies as well.
I just noticed that at the last show I saw him reading, I go, God, it's Jonathan. I said, hi.
Well, I write a column. I don't write reviews because it's monthly, but I write a column, a digest kind of news and analysis of what's going on in the business and the industry here in Chicago.
Well, let's go to our first show because we have a big show going on, and that's going to be, Kelly wants to talk about Pippin.
I do want to talk about Pippin.
And that's through the Music Theater Company.
Right, up in Highland Park. It is spectacular. I am a big fan of Pippin, and I know there are only two kinds of people in the world, people who love it and people who absolutely despise it. Obviously, if you absolutely despise Pippin, you would not enjoy this production. But if you love it, this production is as close to the original with Ben Vereen, directed by Bob Fosse, as you will ever see. They have a spectacular man playing the lead player and an equally strong person playing Pippin himself. And it is just a complete delight.
I know Jessica Radish runs that theater, and she directed this show. And they've actually done some, it's only, what, a 2-year-old theater is now up in Highland Park.
Well, the company's only 2 years old. I believe they're using the old community center space that Apple Tree Theater used to occupy.
Right,
so the venue has been around for a while.
But the company shows no signs of being a freshman organization. Jessie Mueller, who used to perform with them, has just been nominated for a Tony Award for her performance in On a Clear Day You Can See Forever on Broadway. And that's the level of talent that they attract.
They do have some great shows. I've seen 2 up there now, so I do like that theater.
I haven't seen Pippin yet, but I did get an email a day or 2 ago. Kelly, maybe you know, they have extended the run, and I do not now know the new closing date. Do you?
No, but it can't possibly run long enough.
It's continuing.
Well, that's good.
And I agree with you because that was the first play I ever saw on Broadway.
Is that right?
Yes. And I agree with you. You either love Pippin or you don't. And this is the second time I saw it. Boho had done it. And this production was really phenomenal. It was cast so well, and it was such an intimate space there. And it was, we actually had somebody on the show from Boho singing Corner of the Sky at my request. But I agree with you. If you love Pippin, you really have to see this production.
Absolutely.
So from Pippin, let's go to Marriott, Lincolnshire, because I know you both didn't see Pirates of Penzance, right?
No. I am not a Gilbert and Sullivan fan. Nobody should ever send me to see anything.
I am a Gilbert and Sullivan fan, but I saw a Pirates of Penzance out at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival just over the summer, and I've not yet gotten up to see the Marriott version, but it's an updating. It's a kind of a modern pop hip version of the old standard.
Because actually he wrote this in the 1870s, right?
Yes.
So, and this was done as an opera. So now they're turning it more into a musical. Typical Marriott, a lot of dancing, a lot of singing, and a lot of costuming. So they did a nice job. And I know we do have a clip of this show, so let's play that clip from Pirates of Penzance.
You were just saying it looks, it's a fun show, and of course, again, Marriott, I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about Marriott, but
They
I
always
just
do
think
very
they
strong work.
always, their work is always so good, so.
And that'll be playing until June 10th.
Okay.
So from there, let's go to another show which you've seen, Lights in the Piazza.
Yes.
Theater Ubique.
We both
We
saw
You
both
both
saw
saw
it.
it.
Yes.
No Exit Cafe, which is the smallest little theater I've seen in Chicago.
They really do astonishing work in a space smaller than your bathroom. And Light in the Piazza is no exception. The voices are wonderful, and they managed to present what's really an operatic musical with actors about this far from your face. And the actors remain in character not only when they're on the stage, but during the intermission when they're serving you coffee. This is the way they do things at Theo Ubique, and it's something that we've gotten accustomed to, but I have really never encountered people who were such serious opera singers and who wanted to give me Chianti.
Now, you didn't like it, did you?
Well, I didn't. It's not that I didn't like it. I think that the show, because it is in an opera style, is a little bit too big. Meaning the score and the voices, a little bit too big for such an intimate space. It just needs a little more, I think, distance away from the audience, and that's an objection, if you will, a criticism on a theoretical ground. It's not about did this performer or that performer or the musical director do a good job. They all did a good job, and it is a forceful and imaginative presentation. This is a Broadway musical, as it were, adaptation of the film The Light in the Piazza that many people may remember from the 1950s. It was a novel before that. Kind of a bittersweet story of romance and heartbreak and possibilities
Gail's
for a
life
young
story.
woman.
For me, the problem was
Maybe
not
Kelly's
the
too.
production, but because I thought they did an excellent job of miniaturizing something that's quite large, but that I don't happen to like the score. They presented a beautiful version of a score that isn't worth listening to. Now, Jonathan disagrees, but he's wrong.
Kelly, you've had a tin ear from the day I first met
This
you.
is
Yes,
why
yes,
they're the
yes,
dueling critics.
You wouldn't know a good piece of music if it jumped up and slapped you upside the head, and that's
All
the
right.
truth.
I love
gotta
the
tell
music.
you.
I mean, well, maybe because I love opera, I love classics. So,
Right, right.
So that's probably why I liked it.
It should
Whereas
be
I expect that Richard Rodgers' grandson, who is the composer and lyricist of Light in the Piazza, would be able to write something that had a melody.
And his name is Adam Gettle, and he does write precisely what is necessary at any given moment. The show, Light in the Piazza, the Theo Ubique production, I believe is up for something like, I don't know, multiple, 11, 12,
Multiple
13.
Jeff
That little
Awards.
theater gets so many Jeff
Non-equity
Awards.
Jeff Awards.
They
you
do
know,
very,
given in
very
June.
high quality
They
work.
do high quality.
Yeah.
So from there, let's go to another big theater, and that's Drury Lane, and they're doing Hairspray, which none of us have seen.
I
All
saw
right.
it.
Gail saw it.
What did you think?
I absolutely loved it.
Did ya?
Yeah, I did. They did some different things with it. It was Tammy Mater directed it and choreographed it, and I think she's a great choreographer. And it was, I thought it was just a really solid production, really solid.
Do you know who's playing Edna and who's playing Tracy?
Tracy, we saw the girl afterwards.
That's the daughter.
I cannot remember her name. Edna was Michael Lindner, who was in
Okay. Sweeney Todd, wasn't he?
Sweeney
Not-
Todd,
But not
right.
there.
No.
But he's done.
And Tim Kazurinsky, who you guys know from Second City,
Of
he's
course.
originally from
Oh.
Chicago. He came back to Chicago. He was just in Shakespeare Theater. Now he was in Hairspray playing Edna's husband. And he's all of a sudden, he's like on all the stages now. I remember seeing, he was on about 4 seasons of Saturday Night Live. So
There's also a new film that's about to appear at the Siskel, which includes Tim Kazurinsky as a cast member.
yeah, I think he
Yeah.
just, he came back home and now he's
working.
Now he's working.
And Tim and his old Second City castmate George Wendt have been announced to star in a production of The Odd
Couple at Northlight.
Theater
Yes.
In Skokie next season. I believe it's
Yes.
opening their season
So
in
that should
late
be-
September.
Yeah,
or
that
Which
should
will
be
be
lots
really
of fun.
fun.
Yes.
Fun. Let's see a clip of Hairspray from Drury Lane.
You can't stop the beat. You can't stop
Okay, so that's Drury Lane and that's Hairspray, which Gail loves that show no matter who plays it.
I love it.
So let's go to another show that just opened up this week at the Shakespeare Theater, and that's Timons of Athens.
Timon of Athens. And this is starring in the title role the distinguished Scots Anglo actor Ian McDermott, who is best known to legions of Star Wars fans as the evil Emperor Palatine, whom he played. But he is indeed a classically trained actor. Timon of Athens, typical of Chicago Shakespeare, it is a physically vigorous and imaginative production that fills the eyes and fills the senses. Timon of Athens itself is one of Shakespeare's hardest to like plays. Very little poetry on the ear. There is no romance in it. It's set in ancient Athens. It's about a wealthy individual, a man who is generous and wealthy and gives away millions, gives away his money. And when the wheel of fortune turns and he finds himself bankrupt, he is abandoned by all the people he has helped before, which turns him bitter and cynical. And he goes out to live in a cave in the woods where what happens? He discovers a hoard of wealth, of gold. How will he react to that? What will happen? That is the tale. For several centuries, it was a play that people wouldn't touch. It was considered, the ethics and morality of it were considered so peculiar and so dark and difficult that the play wasn't produced. The last 30 years, as we have become a society of greater and greater wealth and greed, all of a sudden, everybody wants to do Timon of Athens. Difficult to like, but if you have a charismatic lead actor who has a little bit or some personal charm and charisma and personal warmth, that actor can make the play work. And Ian McDermott has that. Barbara Gaines, the artistic director, has staged it, as I say, with her usual sense of fine visual, eye-filling productions.
She brought it into modern days. So
Yes.
this takes place now, except the words, of course, are still Shakespeare words.
Exactly.
Which was my only problem with the play, is I had a hard time understanding him. He was kind of slurring some of his words. And then, but I loved the play. I loved the way she redid it. And of course, he never learns his lesson, because even when he's on the island, he's still giving away the gold, to everyone that comes by. At one point,
But he doesn't expect any return.
Right.
He doesn't expect loyalty or he's learned he's become cynical about it. Yes.
At one point, I turned to Gail and I said, I feel like I'm watching a play that's taking place in Chicago City Council, with the greed and everything that's going on. Yes. I said, it was just unbelievable, but I love the staging of it.
Yeah.
And they did an excellent job. And it is typical Barbara Gaines, because she brings in a lot of new ideas and stuff. And so they did a great job with the show. But you haven't seen it yet, so you're going to see it before it closes, I'm sure.
That's my plan, yes.
Okay, let's go to another show, which Interview with Freud, which I know you haven't
Freud's
seen.
last session.
Oh, Freud's last session.
You make it sound like Interview with a Vampire. I have it on my schedule because it's
they have
just
a new
gotten a
cast.
new cast.
It's,
Right.
it's with Nussenbaum plays.
Mike Nussbaum has moved into the role of Freud, and who has moved into
I can't remember, but it's somebody else
C.S.
whose
Lewis.
work I love.
It was Gross. Carbon Gross played it originally.
Right.
He played Steve.
Forgive me, I cannot remember, but I was excited enough about it that I decided to see it in the second cast, although I hadn't seen it in the first cast. There have been very mixed reviews of the play all over the country. There are some people who think that this is a wonderful work of intellectual swordplay, something Jonathan and I, of course, know a lot about. And there are other people who think, no, this is kind of thoughtless and appearing to be intellectual. So I'm looking very much forward to finding out which is the case.
Well, I was watching a lot of the clips that they had from the show. They sent me like 6 clips. And when you look at it, it's basically Freud and
C.S. Lewis, right?
The day before war, a day before war strikes in World War II with London. And the weird thing is, it's actually 2 weeks before he killed himself, which I didn't know that Freud killed himself. And
Which a fact that was suppressed for many, many, many years. He had cancer. He was a lifelong smoker of cigars. He eventually developed jaw cancer, and there was some surgery, but it didn't cure him, and he was dying of cancer, and he chose.
But it's a
to end it
wonderful
instead.
play that deals with God love, and sex. And we do have a clip of that play, so let's see
Is
that.
the clip about God or love or sex?
Actually, this one deals with, he's talking about God and sex.
Very good.
Proud. It builds walls that make common ground impossible. Why is it that religion makes room for science, but science refuses to make room for religion?
How roomy was Galileo's cell when he told the Pope the sun did not move around the earth?
Okay.
I
so-
remembered the name of the actor. C.S. Lewis is going to be played by Coburn Goss,
Ah,
who's
okay.
a longtime Chicago actor and a very fine one.
And the clip was the first cast, not Coburn Goss and Mike Nussbaum, who were going into it.
And they did, and when I saw the clip, it really is a great show to see. And it's at, was it Next Theater in Evanston, right?
Mercury.
No, Mercury
No, it's at
Theater.
the
Mercury Theater on Southport, yeah.
Okay. I was getting that confused with another show that I just saw it there. Okay, so that's it for the clips. We have a show that I just saw Thursday night. It's called The Roar of the Butterfly. And this contains a wonderful female actress and cabaret singer here in Chicago by the name of Spider Saloff, who I'm going to get you to tell you why she calls herself Spider. But it's an excellent show, and she plays a couple characters. But what we decided to do on our show, instead of showing a clip right away, she decided to sing. So she's going to do one of the songs that she does sing in the show. So I want to introduce Spider Saloff and The Roar of the Butterfly.
You better watch yourself with that one. He's got a way you won't suspect. You better watch yourself with that one. You won't know what you should protect. At first it seems like he's a sad one, and someone left him lost and blue. But you will find out he's a bad one, and soon there's nothing left of you. He'll come on slow and sweet. Before you know it's sweet, you won't know the time of day. He'll take you by surprise, but once you're in his eyes, you won't have a thing to say. You better watch yourself with that one. You might just like the things you do. You better watch yourself with that one. And I'll be watching myself too. He'll come on slow and sweet. Before you know it's sweet, you won't know the time of day. He'll take you by surprise, but once you're in his eyes, you won't have a thing to say. You better watch yourself with that one. You might just like the things he'll do. You better watch yourself with that one. And I'll be watching myself too. Ooh, I'll be watching myself too, yes. I'll be watching, I'll be watching myself too.
So that's one of her songs. And, The Roar of the Butterfly is playing at Victory Gardens. It just opened up May 3rd, but it's only here for 2 weeks until May 20th. And then she's supposed to be going to Broadway. And we're going to talk to her about this wonderful show, because in the show, she actually plays a bunch of characters. Each character is a different personality. Each one is hysterical and funny. And I've got to ask Spider about the fact that this is based on personal true story, a little bit about your life.
Yes, it is. And just something I should add, I wrote the book, I wrote all the music, and I play 8 characters in it. And it all takes place at a memorial for an Asian drag queen named Butterfly. And it's based on a true story, which is kind of crazy, but you know, there's nothing crazier than real life. And the characters are all based on real people, but they're outrageous. And it's about how this one unusual person affected all these people's lives. It's basically about how one person changes everything, and how this person helped people to really get through difficult times in their lives and discover what their dreams are. And it has a poignant message, even though it is really a wacky kind of crazy comedy with a lot of characters in it.
You know, I also want to say, I know, Jonathan, you remember this, but 15 years ago, my mother was working on a show that you were doing, and then she died, and a couple months later, we all got together and we did a big benefit. We were talking about this at the Mercury Theater. Jonathan was actually one of the people that was really instrumental. And you performed there, and you sang a song about loss. And it's funny 15 years later how life kind of comes.
We came full circle here, yeah.
But you know, that was, you know, a very true thing that happened, and it was it was a great evening. Thanks to, that's when I met Jonathan as well too. So
wow.
Well, I certainly remember that show, a tribute to Keki,
yes,
Gail's mother, and of course I've been, though our paths don't cross often, I know Spider's work very, very well. I've been hearing her sing and listening to her CDs for many, many years. And Spider, you've always really been floating along the edges of the theater world and sometimes dipping a toe into it. And it's wonderful to see that you're really just jumping in with both feet on this one.
Oh boy, yeah, I sure jumped off it this time. But it's been a dream of mine.
Now,
yes.
You're going to be taking this show to New York.
That is our hope. We off Broadway, not Broadway. And we are hoping for something that will happen this fall, but it isn't set in stone yet, so I'm still keeping my lips closed about it. But essentially, this is a whole, wonderful adventure to be doing it at the Victory Gardens in Chicago. It's really, something come to fruit, and it played in Australia last year. And then I tried it in another foreign country, Los Angeles. And so far the reactions were pretty good. So we're very excited about the Chicago run.
I enjoyed the show, and even though your opening night was on one of the worst rainy days in Chicago,
woohoo, yeah.
And parking was atrocious, and I know that there were technical difficulties with the sound, which I found out was all caused because of Children's Hospital next door.
Yes, it was like wavelengths and, I don't know, space aliens getting involved or something. But the sound is all cleaned up now.
But I enjoyed it.
I'm so glad.
Even though there was the sound problem, it was still a wonderful show.
Wow.
And I love the characters that you play.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's just amazing. And how did you come up with some of these characters, though?
Real people. Yeah, a lot of them are based on, the actual event that it's based on was a real memorial for a drag queen named Butterfly that happened in New York. And it was based on a real event, a real person. And then some of the characters actually did know him, but some of them were people from my life. And I've incorporated stories from my life that come through the lips of these other characters. And they are all basically, they're based on real people, but then some of it's fictionalized, and weaving the story of Butterfly into stories from my life was the trick about writing it.
Well, it's crazy, some of the characters that you have. And to give you an idea, I put together a little clip of all your characters in short little synopsis. So let's play that clip of The Roar of the Butterfly.
I was having a glass of wine, and this guy comes in, this young Asian guy. He's a little thing, very friendly. Everybody seemed to know him. And all of a sudden, he goes into the men's room, and he comes back out, and he's got this chiffon thing on. It's like a butterfly costume. He's flapping his wings around, and oh, everybody was screaming. They just loved him. He was sort of magical, you know. And I thought, oh, who's this fucking crazy drag queen, you know? Mrs. Muriel Winslow, of course. Just the way it's printed on all my photograph albums. Yes. And also known as a very talented singer. That's one of the reasons they requested that I be in this play about butterfly. Here, do you know how to make a dry martini? Well, you're about to learn. It's a very important life lesson. You'll put a little tiny bit of a cap in there. Dry and wet. Lovely. It's nothing like Miami. Oh my God. We went on a trip to Miami one time. And I'm sitting there by the pool. And I was wearing this necklace. Oh, Steve gave me this. Isn't it beautiful? It goes with everything. So I'm sitting there by the pool in my lounge chair. Well, this good-looking Chinese guy comes, sits next to me. And I thought, he's a good-looking guy. So he leans over and he says, "Excuse me, miss, but I love your necklace." These people that he was friends with, a couple, they were from Philadelphia. Oh yeah, really, strange people. Oh, strange. Big hair.
It's for children.
Okay, so that is the clip that I put together.
Yes, and that's from a film by Chris Pepe, who is still continuing to do documentary on the piece.
And so it's amazing the characters that you play, and I tried to cut out some things because I still wanted to keep my G rating on this show.
Now, in addition, we also have some of your CDs out here.
Fabulous, yeah.
And I'm sure that you can get these online.
They're available
or
online at my website, which is SPYDERjazz.com.
And you know, like Jonathan, I would just want to, like, you know, Jonathan was just saying, I'm so glad that you're still out there performing. You know, sometimes you see people 15, 20 years ago, and then you don't see them, and
Can't
I'm
get rid of me
so
yet.
glad that you're still out there performing.
Wonderful. Well, I'm thrilled.
It's
a blast.
So we're playing at the Victory Gardens Theater. We're playing until
May 20th.
May 20th. So that's
I'm going to
it.
give the number, too, for tickets is 773-871-3000. And then you also have a website, www.spidersaloff.com. By the way, Spider is your real given birth
now.
name?
It's my real name now.
Jonathan, anything you need to tell us with 1 minute to go?
About anything at all? Or,
Anything you want to talk about for 1 minute?
See part one of Angels in America. Don't bother with part two.
Jonathan has actually an announcement.
Well, which one? Well,
About-
actually, we're out of time. So
We're out of
we
time.
can
We'll
make
have
the
to do our
next
announcement later.
month.
Please get to see Spider's show.
From Chicago
Thank you very
Theater
much.
Review, as usual, we're out of time. We'll see you next week.